Hey there, let me mess with your brain for a second. Imagine you find a $20 bill on the street.
You're happy.
Lucky day. Now imagine tomorrow morning that same $20 can only buy half as much stuff. Same bill, same ink, same number, different power. So who decided that? Because money doesn't come with a built-in value. It doesn't say, I am worth exactly this much forever. Value is negotiated, constantly, quietly, and usually without asking you. Let's meet Alice. Alice gets paid on Friday. Her salary hits her account. She feels good. Then she goes shopping. Groceries cost more. Coffee costs more. Rent is higher. Alice squints at her phone and says, wait, did my money get smaller? It looks the same, but it feels weaker. So Alice asks a dangerous question. Who decides how much my money is worth? Great question. Because the answer is not the government. Not exactly. And not the market. Not alone. It's more like a weird group project where nobody admits they're in charge. Let's start simple. Money is a promise. A promise that you can trade it for goods and services. That's it. So the value of money depends on two things: how much money exists and how much stuff exists. If money grows faster than stuff, money gets weaker. If stuff grows faster than money, money gets stronger. That's the basic math. Now let's add characters. First up, Bob. Bob is a central bank. Yes, Bob wears glasses and speaks in very calm sentences. Bob controls interest rates and how much money is created. Bob doesn't decide prices directly, but Bob sets the conditions. When Bob lowers interest rates, borrowing gets easier. People borrow more. Businesses invest more. More money enters the system. When Bob raises rates, borrowing slows. Money creation cools off. So Bob doesn't say milk will cost $3. Bob says, I'll make money easier or harder to get. And prices respond. Now here's the important part. Bob doesn't work alone. Bob reacts to inflation, to unemployment, to recessions, to panic. So if Alice's money feels weaker, Bob might try to fix it. But Bob is always late. Because Bob only sees data after things happen. So Bob is steering a giant ship using last month's weather report. Now let's add another group. Businesses. Businesses decide prices. Not governments. Not central banks. Businesses. If costs go up, they raise prices. If demand is strong, they raise prices. If competitors disappear, they raise prices. So when Alice asks, why is everything more expensive? The answer is often because businesses can charge more and still sell. That's it. So the value of Alice's money is partly decided by how much pricing power companies have. Now let's add workers. This is where it gets personal. If wages rise faster than prices, money feels stronger. If prices rise faster than wages, money feels weaker. So who decides wages? Employers. Labor markets. Unions. Negotiating power. If Alice has rare skills, she can demand higher pay. If jobs are scarce, she can't. So the value of Alice's money is tied to how much leverage she has in the job market. Already we've got a mess. Central banks. Businesses. Employers. No single decider. Now let's zoom out further. Global markets. Alice's money doesn't just live at home. It competes with other currencies. Dollars. Euros. Yen. If investors trust Alice's country, they buy its currency. If they don't, they sell it. When demand for a currency falls, its value drops. Imported goods get more expensive. Alice feels poorer. She didn't vote on this. She didn't cause it. But global money flows decided. So who decides how much Alice's money is worth? Foreign investors she's never met. Now here's the really uncomfortable part. Expectations. Money is forward-looking. If people expect prices to rise, they act differently. They spend faster. They raise prices early. They demand higher wages. Those actions make prices rise. Expectations become reality. So the value of Alice's money is partly decided by belief. Belief about the future. Belief about policy. Belief about stability. Belief about whether things will get worse. Money is psychological. Now let's pause. So far we have central banks shaping conditions, businesses setting prices, employers setting wages, global investors moving money, Public expectations amplifying everything. No single villain. No single hero. Just a system. Now here's the twist. Alice thinks money loses value when something goes wrong. But sometimes money loses value because something went right. If the economy grows fast, people earn more, spend more. Prices rise. Money weakens slightly because demand is strong. That's normal. So money losing value is not always a failure. It's sometimes a side effect of growth. The problem is when growth doesn't reach everyone. Then money weakens without lives improving. That's when people get angry. Now let's talk about supply. Remember the stuff part? If supply chains break, stuff gets scarce. Same money, less stuff. Prices rise. Money weakens. No one voted for this. No policy caused it directly. Reality did. So who decided the value of Alice's money here? A factory fire. A shipping delay. A drought. Sometimes money's value is decided by weather. Now let's put this all together. Alice wants a simple answer. Who's in charge? But there isn't one. Money's value is the result of millions of decisions interacting all the time. Some intentional, some accidental, some global, some local. Money is less like a ruler and more like a mood ring. It changes color based on temperature, pressure, and expectations. And Alice is standing inside the room while the mood changes. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable realization. If no one fully controls how much your money is worth, then stability is fragile. It depends on trust. Trust in institutions. Trust in markets. Trust in each other. Once that trust cracks, money doesn't slowly lose value. It drops fast. That's why governments panic about inflation. Why central banks obsess over credibility. Why confidence shows up in every economic speech. Because once people stop believing money will behave tomorrow the way it did yesterday, they rush to escape it. And that's when the question changes again. It's no longer who decides how much your money is worth. It becomes what happens when nobody believes the answer anymore. And that's when things get unstable. Because money works best when nobody is thinking about it. The moment Alice starts asking, will this still be worth something next year? Money stops being boring. And boring is what money needs to be. Now let's imagine that trust cracks a little. Not full panic, just doubt. Alice hears inflation is rising. Her friends talk about prices going up. The news uses words like persistent. So Alice changes her behavior. She spends faster, buys now instead of later, keeps less cash. She's not panicking. She's being rational. But when millions of people do this at the same time, money starts moving differently. Demand spikes. Prices rise faster. Money weakens further. This is how belief becomes reality. Now let's zoom back to Bob, the central bank. Bob sees inflation numbers rising. Bob gets nervous because Bob's entire job is to protect trust. So Bob raises interest rates. Borrowing becomes expensive. Spending slows. Businesses hesitate. Alice feels this almost immediately. Loans cost more. Job security feels shakier. Life tightens. Bob didn't do this to punish Alice. Bob did it to protect money's credibility. Because if people stop trusting money, no policy works. Now here's the irony. Bob's tools are blunt. Raise rates too little, inflation continues. Raise rates too much, the economy suffers. So Bob is constantly guessing, adjusting, waiting, hoping. This is why no one is fully in control. Even the people in charge are reacting to forces bigger than them. Now let's talk about something people rarely connect. Politics. When governments spend heavily, they inject money into the system. When they cut spending, they pull money out. So fiscal policy also affects money's value. If a government spends aggressively without increasing production, money weakens. If it cuts too hard, money strengthens, but people suffer. So elected officials influence money's value through choices voters argue about every election cycle. Which means Alice's money is partly shaped by politics, whether she likes it or not. Now add global events, wars, pandemics, energy shocks. These change supply overnight. Less oil, less food, less shipping, same money, less stuff. Prices rise. Money weakens. No central bank caused this. No politician voted for it. Reality did. So when Alice asks, who decided my money is worth less, sometimes the answer is no one. Sometimes it's everyone. Now here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Money's value is not a guarantee. It's an agreement. An agreement that this currency will be accepted tomorrow, it will roughly hold its purchasing power, it will be usable for saving and planning. Once people doubt that agreement, money changes behavior fast. People flee to assets, real estate, stocks, gold, anything that feels more stable. That flight itself weakens money. Again, self-reinforcing loops. This is why central banks talk so much. Speeches, statements, careful wording. They're not just setting policy, they're managing belief. Now, let's ground this back in Alice's life. Alice doesn't wake up thinking about monetary policy. She thinks about, can I afford rent? Can I save? Can I plan? When money feels stable, she plans. When money feels unstable, she reacts. So the real deciders of money's value aren't just institutions. They're people. Millions of daily decisions. Spend or save. Borrow or wait. Trust or hedge. Money is a crowd phenomenon, which leads to a surprising conclusion. Money isn't strong because it's printed nicely or backed by gold or designed by experts. Money is strong because people believe other people will accept it. That's it. That's the whole thing. Once belief weakens, no amount of printing, no interest rate tweak, no policy speech can fully restore it overnight. Trust takes time, and credibility once damaged is expensive to rebuild. So when Alice asks, who decides how much my money is worth, the honest answer is, central banks shape it, governments influence it, businesses price around it, workers negotiate within it, investors bet on it, global events stress test it, and people ultimately validate it. Every time they accept money, every time they save it, every time they spend it. Money is a social contract we all keep signing every day, which is why it's fragile. And why stability is such a big deal. Not because stability is exciting, but because instability breaks planning, breaks trust, breaks societies. Now here's the final twist. Once Alice understands this, she stops asking who's stealing value from my money and starts asking better questions. How exposed am I to inflation? How dependent am I on cash? How much control do I actually have? Because while Alice can't control central banks or global markets or geopolitics, she can understand the game. And understanding the game is the first step to not being blindsided by it. Money isn't a fixed ruler. It's a living agreement, shaped by policy, psychology, production, and trust. And the moment you see that, the mystery fades. The uncertainty doesn't disappear, but it starts making sense. So in conclusion, no single person or institution decides how much your money is worth. Its value emerges from the interaction between central banks, governments, businesses, workers, global markets, and most importantly, collective belief. Money holds value because people trust it will hold value tomorrow. When that trust weakens, money weakens too. Understanding this doesn't make the system less complex, but it does make it less mysterious. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.